Fortnite has fallen off for the 5th time this week. So it's once again the midway point of the season where the Fortnite community inevitably gets bored with the season, and when the player count dips below 1 million players at 2 p.m. on a random Wednesday, it means the game is absolutely done for. Ignoring the fact that this is still more active players than 99% of games will ever see in their entire existence. Honestly, I haven't done a rambling video in a bit, so I just wanted to take some time here and get my thoughts out on the state of the game right now. As well, I definitely agree there is some criticisms even I have for the game right now. I'm just honestly sick of the doom posting going on right now, as it's getting ridiculous. And I'll just start by ripping the band-aid off. There has been this extreme hyperfixation on Fortnite's player count right now, and because it's under 1 million players on pretty much every day but weekends, people think the game is just completely falling off and there's no recovering, when in reality, the player count is at about the exact same place it was during the Star Wars season last year. Which, keep in mind, this year in May, we have the midpoint of a 3-month season, whereas last year, the Star Wars season had just started a couple days ago at this point in time. Meaning that the midway point of the current season is doing about as well as the first week of the Star Wars mini-season. And I remember making a video last year about how the Star Wars season was seeing record low player counts for Fortnite, and then it immediately spiked up again as soon as Super came out the following month. And the reason for this is, and I think a lot of people are forgetting this, a large chunk of Fortnite's player base is the age range between high school and college. And you know what's going on in May? Final exams, sports, if you're in high school, prom. Throughout May, there are just various activities that, to the average Fortnite player, are more important than playing the game. That's why you still see the game average between 1.2 and 1.5 million players on weekends, because that's just likely when they have more time to hop on the game and play a few matches. And then once classes start wrapping up, we typically see the player count spike towards the end of May going into June. And I genuinely think a lot of the content creators you see talking about how Fortnite is falling off have just forgotten that, because they play, of course, more than the average person. That's how they make their income. I'm not saying this to throw any shade, that's just how it is. But the player numbers aside, I will admit that this season does have another added layer of negativity towards it, just due to some things that happened outside of the game itself during the beginning of the season. The first of those things was, of course, the V-Buck prices getting raised, and absolutely nobody liked that, because why would they? You're spending more money on the same product. But after the groaning, the community came to accept, alright, whatever, this is how things are. But this season between the Ice King and Foundation fighting is really hype. So whatever, it's cool, everything was great. We were all like, rah, Team Ice King, Team Foundation, and there was like the whole fake beef going on. That was fun. But then the layoffs happened, and I'm not gonna lie, the reputation of Fortnite has not recovered since. Like, I mean, everyone was talking about the layoffs. Even if they haven't played Fortnite since the OG mini-season, or even before that, everyone was talking about how Epic Games had laid off 1,000 employees. And this didn't just impact the employees who are at Epic Games or who got laid off. It impacted the entire community surrounding the game. Seemingly every content creator lost all motivation to even talk about Fortnite for quite a while. Hell, some creators still haven't put out a video on the game since. And to be honest with you guys, I even talked to a couple other creators I am mutuals with about the layoffs, and we all came to the same consensus of we just felt like shit, even though we weren't the people laid off. It's just like a cloud surrounded the entire Fortnite community, and everything just looked like it was game over for a while. But I will admit, some of the Epic Games devs that we've seen more active on Twitter have done an amazing job of starting to bring the core part of the community back together again. As one of the biggest issues the community had with Epic Games for a while has started to finally be resolved, which was there was just no communication anymore. And it just seems like Epic Games for years hasn't been listening. But recently, they definitely have. It's been really cool seeing the devs directly interact with the community. Shout out to Chris for actually commenting on one of my tweets, by the way. That was really cool. But I do want to move on to something more positive, which is just talking about my own opinions on this season, because I really like it. I am being completely honest when I say this. From purely the gameplay perspective, I think this is one of the most fun Fortnite seasons of all time. I absolutely love the rivalry system. I also do not think there is more than maybe 2 weapons in this entire loot pool that I dislike. To me, what makes a good loot pool is when there is not one definitive loadout that you're going to want to find and use in every match you can. And this season has absolutely no issues with that. There's multiple different effective movement items, multiple different good shotguns, ARs, the revolver's amazing, the DMR is amazing. Nothing in this loot pool feels like it isn't effective in the fight, minus maybe that one shotgun. I don't know what's going on there. Look, this may be surprising coming from someone who's mostly known for making storyline related content, but the most important element of a good Fortnite season is the gameplay itself. Yes, it's awesome when the storyline is fun to follow. Yes, it's cool that we're getting some good map changes. But when the core gameplay loop of a season is bad, it makes it a season I don't want to come back to every day and play a few matches. This season definitely does not have that problem. And hey, maybe you don't agree with me and you absolutely hate the gameplay of this season. I honestly don't care. I'm having fun. Truthfully, the only issue I really have with the season is some of the way they're handling the storyline. Because I'm not going to lie, this season is a complete narrative mess. Some parts are pretty well handled, like the Dark Voyager and the Elite's plots. But there's other plots going on this season that either haven't really moved since the day the season launched, or are really lacking backstory. I know the one that everyone's pointing to is we didn't see Jones and Foundation's reunion, which, yeah, bare minimum, that should have been a loading screen. Plus, they really haven't given us a good explanation as to where the Order or the Foundation have been all this time. It doesn't have to be like a super long explanation. It could legitimately be like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, just be like, yeah, so I was actually in this part of the Omniverse the entire time. It just helps to bridge the narrative gap that currently exists right now. I mean, stuff like this has always been a problem with Fortnite, but that doesn't mean it's not something they can look into improving upon in the future. And I will just acknowledge that, yes, telling a story through a Battle Royale game is really difficult, especially when you don't really use outside mediums like comic books to advance the story to its fullest potential, which is something I will always advocate they should really look into doing. But that's a video topic for another day. Anyways, just to wrap this video up, yes, Fortnite's player numbers are not the highest they've ever been by any means right now, but I think the player base is spending way too much time worrying about the player numbers instead of just enjoying the game as it is right now. Because this is a really fun season, and if you don't personally enjoy it, that's fine. You don't need to go on rants on social media about how Fortnite's falling off for the 5th time this week. Just play something else. Then again, that's a foreign concept to these people. Anyways, that's it for this ramble. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this style of video of mine, as honestly, I had quite a good time making this, and I think these could be a pretty good way to bridge the gap between my more edited videos. Also, I would appreciate it if you guys would hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. And if you want to take it one step further and really support me, please consider using my creator code ThunderDM in the item shop if you'd like to support me. Anyway, that's all for now. See ya.